Hey everyone, back again. John Nero here on our series on how to learn well, how to maximize learning, good learning. In previous videos, we talked about focusing intently, chunking our problems, practicing, and the different things entailed with that. Again, this is all the useful stuff I found from the book A Mind for Numbers. So we'll go ahead and move on. We're on taking breaks, and on this video, I'll go ahead and hit these three branches here, okay? And then another video we'll talk about the day, and these are basically just productivity hacks that I found that you can use to maximize productivity in your day here, okay? And so let's see here. Alrighty, so taking breaks, let's go ahead and hit that. All right, so what do we have here? Taking breaks. Obviously, that's very useful whenever we're studying. What is it? What do we say here? When you get stuck, frustrated, take a break so another part of your brain can work out on the problem. Staying in the zone for too long will send you into burnout. Pausing and reflecting, meditating. Where's my language going? Pausing and reflecting, meditating, and physical exercise are great options. Okay, makes sense. We'll go to 5217. What exactly does that mean? Breaks disrupt habituation, a process that causes us to lose sight of our goal if we stick to a task for too long, and helps us maintain focus and reactivate our commitment to goals. So, what 5217 is, they've done, there's this obscure study out there that found the perfect ratio from work to break ratio. And they found that 52 minutes of work for every 17 minutes of break was the average in which productivity was maximized. Okay, so this counters the notion of Pomodoro technique we talked about earlier, where we set 25 minutes again. I mentioned that that's sort of a tentative number. That's subject to change depending on of course, how rigorous the subject matter is. But 5217, you can try that out, but it's not hard and fast. It's really what works for you. If you're studying a particularly hard subject, working 10 minutes is more than enough, and taking a 5-minute break. So long as the work time is more than the break time, then you should be good, okay? And eventually you'll find that you can go on for longer stretches of time, studying and working and being productive and having shorter breaks, okay? Be with others. Being with others boosts mood and performance. Study groups, things like that. Being with people, it depends on the subject, of course, but more often than not, being with others and studying with them allows for collaborative learning. You'll better explain a subject, right, to a person, and they'll point out your weakness areas, and perhaps you'll also help them in kind. And so being with other study groups, things like that, always helpful. Tune out completely. Daydream and no tech. So tuning out completely. So this, I talked earlier about diffuse mode and what that means. Diffuse mode is sort of when you're out walking around, you're not really paying attention to a thing, you're sort of daydreaming, you're in your shower just thinking. That allows for more sort of a headspace that allows for insights and those aha moments. So tuning out completely, staying away from technology here. Of course, the distraction of technology can definitely stop the diffuse mode of thinking. Daydreaming is an asset here, okay? Going for a stroll, very simple. Just going out for a walk. That kind of goes into tuning out completely. Going for a walk. I love going for walks. Whenever I sit down and do maybe a study session, I'll go out for maybe a 5-minute walk and just no headphones, nothing like that, and just, in my head think like, okay, what did I just learn? Okay, what are some areas that might relate to what I just learned? Okay, ooh, that's interesting, and then things will pop into mind. So going for a stroll is really fun and really useful, and I always enjoyed taking a break and going out and walking. Okay, so moving on. Eat your frogs first. Okay, so I believe Charles Whitman coined this term. Is it Charles Whitman? I don't know. Ernest Hemingway, maybe. Do the hardest thing in the day first is what this is suggesting. And I wrote this principle down, obviously, for a reason, because in the morning, or usually around the morning, depending on if you're a morning person, but usually around noon, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is when we're maximally cognitively, I guess, engaged. the maximum amount of effort can be exerted around those times. So it's best to put in the hardest tasks in those times, usually in the morning. So eating your frogs first is just doing the hardest thing first in the morning, and then leaving the evening things for more creative things, things that don't require as much cognitive effort, such as checking your emails or scheduling for the next week or day, what have you. So doing the hardest thing earliest in the day when you are fresh, with your goals at night, then accomplish it the next day. Okay, write your goals at night and then accomplish it the next day. That's a good tip there. So finding, before you go to bed, either you work out a problem before you go to bed and just think, okay, that's a useful thing we talked about earlier about how to reinforce chunks. But you can also write about, okay, what am I going to be doing the next day? That's also a useful thing to do. What are the goals I want to accomplish? What are the tasks I need to do? What are the things I want to learn and study about? Writing those out, and then, of course, having them fresh in your mind during sleep, and then waking up and accomplishing those goals and those tasks. Okay? Making a mental contrast is sort of tying everything up, discovering the why behind all of this. Why are we sort of painstakingly going through these courses and these, almost seemingly useless things? It's all for the greater good, this grand goal that you have in your mind, and always tying it back to that. What are you going to be? What career goal are you striving for? That explains the suffering that sort of basically justifies all of the struggle and the strife you go through for learning and studying these things. So let's see. Mental construction is a technique in which you think about where you are now and contrast it with what you want to achieve. So right now you're probably in college or in school, and you're learning trigonometry, and you're thinking, well, why do I need to know this? Well, it's laying down the basic groundwork for what you are to learn, continue on in later courses. And those things matter. As trivial and frivolous as they might seem now, eventually they build up into something much more useful, okay? And so understanding that, yes, it's not enjoyable now, but in the future you're going to achieve this great, wondrous thing, and you'll eventually get your diploma and you get your degree, and perhaps maybe you can go on to get your master's or what have you, and you'll find yourself in this wonderful career position where you're financially comfortable, compensated for all these things that all the little factoids that you've learned throughout public education and college has led up to attaining this position, okay? So there is a purpose, there's a reason as to why you're slaving away in school and learning all of these, what you might consider trivial things. So imagine where you come from and where your studies will take you afterwards, okay? So education is, I consider, of course I might paint a cynical brush with how I see all this learning, but really education is not a means to an end, for me at least. It's almost an end in of itself, because I can really find myself enjoying this material. So learning about the brain for me is always fun. It's something that I can see how others don't find it useful, but it's just something that I just am passionate about. I can just see myself doing in free time, right? And so learning can be a fun thing, and it doesn't have to be painstaking, and there's always a payoff for whatever you're learning. Even if it doesn't seem like it right now, there's always a benefit to sitting down and learning, okay? Because it builds great habits, builds great work ethic, and luckily, if you're that lucky individual, it's something that you intrinsically enjoy doing, and that's always a wonderful thing, okay? So I'm going to stop the video there. In the next video, we'll finalize and conclude the series of learning how to learn, talking about the day and how it should look like for you. Perhaps maybe you'll find some interesting, useful things in the next video. Okay, so thanks again for tuning in. John Neuro out, and also be sure to like and subscribe, recommend the video if you find it useful. Thanks again.